first responders, fire, police, EMT, veterans. What is going on with them, with their health, their mental health, their sleep, their recovery?
I'm super pumped that you even brought it up because it's hard to get the word out there. Even though it's been validated, by all these clinical trials, even though the states are funding it, it still comes across as sort of black magic, voodoo, snake oil.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the MTNTOUGH Podcast. I am Dustin Diefenderfer, host and CEO, and I'm so glad that you are here. We love seeing you come back to these episodes week after week, and we love seeing your feedback on the show. It is our goal every week to bring you an inspiring guest that helps you add some tools to that mindset, that mental toughness, that mental fitness toolbox. If you are new to the show, I do want to make sure you know about the MTNTOUGH code for podcast listeners. This code will get you 6 weeks free in the MTNTOUGH Plus app. All you need to do to take advantage of that is go to MTNTOUGH.com, click Start Free Trial, then enter the code MOUNTAINPOD, all caps, all one word, MTNPOD. That'll get you going for 6 weeks of free training in the MTNTOUGH app. Shifting gears now to today's guest. On the show today, we have former Navy SEAL John Doolittle. John Doolittle was in the Navy Special Warfare Organization for a long time, 20 years plus, and he's dedicated his life, even in the military and after the military, into the mental health, the human performance, the behavior health of our country's first responder, veteran, and active duty community. We're going to dive into that today and uncover some hacks that are making a difference in the performance around our first responders and our military members. We're going to unpack some contributing factors to suicide and the suicide rates in our country. It's a phenomenal conversation. If you're looking to boost your performance, you're not going to want to miss this one. So please stand by for my conversation with John Doolittle. I did want to start with what you sent over this morning because I found that super interesting.
That LinkedIn post?
Yeah, the info you sent over this morning on first responders, fire, police, EMT, veterans. What is going on with them, with their health, their mental health, their sleep, their recovery? It sounds like that's a big passion of yours now.
Oh yeah, it's that's probably more than anything why I got pulled into this Chamber of Commerce thing, is for the mental health, behavioral health in the private sector. But well, let's rewind a little bit. I started at the Air Force Academy.
Yeah.
I did an inter-service transfer into the Navy. When I was a salvage diver for a while, I tried to get into BUDS like 6 different times. I applied and they kept saying no. I was an officer and I kept getting more and more senior. And finally, on the 7th time, they let me come in. So I came in late. So OIC, the officer in charge of Class 213. I spent 25 years in the Navy. About 21 of that was in the teams. I was in the teams when 9/11 happened, and we were in Kosovo when that took place. As you well know, I've listened to some of your. Oh, by the way, the last one with the guy from he's a chaplain.
Yeah, Jim.
Or not chaplain, but a minister from Colorado.
Jim Bergen.
Oh God.
He's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that was incredible. It made me pull over and think about some stuff. You're right. I was, in the car for sure. And he even said, hey, hopefully this makes some guys pull over. But, remember when he was talking about guys versus men?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I pulled over and my LinkedIn profile that used to say dude, guy, bro for my, my him or her thing. And I pulled over and I put man,
yeah,
dude, guy, bro. my pronouns.
That was a
But
powerful
yeah,
episode. Powerful episode.
yeah, he was great, man. But like any officer in the teams, your time in the teams usually ends up finishing with some kind of staff tour. So I did 25 years in the Navy. The last three I was at SOCOM headquarters at Special Operations Command headquarters here in Tampa. I'm in St. Pete, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and Admiral McCraven at the time he had a little bit of time left, and he asked me to come in and run the POTF program, so the Preservation of the Force and Family. Uh, One of my best friends in the teams had died by suicide, and he pulled me in and said, "Hey, if you take this job, this is a way to help keep that from happening potentially more in the future."
To more guys.
And so it was a pretty powerful moment, right? So, and how do you say no to a four-star asking you to do something in memory of your good friend? Joe Price. We can talk about him more if we have time
Yeah.
later. But back to the post you saw. One of the things I was exposed to when I was in that job was something called magnetic EEG guided resonance therapy, or MERT. It was this place called the Brain Treatment Center. The name now is Wave Neuroscience. It's in Newport Beach, California. And we were at this trade show, and SOCOM has a trade show every year. It's called it used to be called SOFIC, Special Operation Forces Industry Show. It's just I forget what it's called now, but it's coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But there was this guy walking around. This is in like 2015. He was walking around with a laptop, showing people video testimonials of veterans, of SOF veterans, special operations guys. And it was like before and after. And it was coming across like I was really on my defense. I was like, man, who are these guys? It's too good to be true. Snake oil, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I saw I saw a testimonial of a guy I knew, like a guy I was at Team 2 with a long time ago. So I called him up and I said, hey, what's this all about? And he goes, oh, bro, talk to that guy. It's legit.
Brain stuff.
And he told me his story. And there's a lot to this story, but what I'll just say is at SOCOM, we started really digging into it with the command surgeon office, the POTF guys, the care coalition. We all started looking at what was going on. And what it was is the tier 1 elements, guys that were really struggling with sleep, were being sent out to this place in California, and they were coming back and they were sleeping hard. So we went out there to visit this place, and by this time, General Votel was in place, and we came back and reported back to him what they were doing. He said, "Hey, let's do something to validate it. Like a big evidence-based clinical trial study, FDA study." So we lined that up with the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences up in DC, USIS, and validated it. And so anyway, jump forward to what's going on now in the state of Ohio, Missouri, and now here in Florida, thanks to Representative Danny Alvarez and his team. The states, so it's not insurance, it can be funded by insurance, but what's happened is the states, those 3 states, and they want to do it in all 50, they have funded this validated treatment protocol for any firefighter, police officer, EMT, or veteran. So in the state of Florida right now, and we want, hopefully we get this changed in the state to be a little, open the aperture a little bit. But right now it's active firefighters, active law enforcement officers, active EMTs, or veterans. And it's the state is fully funded 20 of these treatments. And the treatments are like 15, 20 minutes. They start you with a baseline EEG and EKG, and they determine what your intrinsic natural alpha wave should be. So your alpha wave should be between 8 and 13 hertz. And everybody's different, right? I'm an 8.5 hertz guy.
Okay.
You might be a 12.8 hertz guy. It doesn't mean faster is not necessarily better.
Yeah.
It's just that's what your intrinsic alpha wave frequency is. Alpha wave being when you close your eyes and you relax, where your brain goes. And what they found is guys exposed to blast, guys with TBI, guys with cumulative subconcussive issues and all that kind of stuff, combined with circadian rhythm mix-ups and deployments and night and day operations and all that kind of stuff, their sleep 9 times out of 10 is jacked up. And when you look at their EEG, what you find is their alpha waves in the back of their head there might be a delta of like 3 or 4 hertz between the front, their motor cortex and the back of their skull.
Yeah.
And what they do with the treatment is, if you just imagine billions of neurons swinging all in synchronicity, that's how it should look. A lot of guys like me, I had an alpha peak in the front and an alpha peak in the back, and they were very different speeds. Yeah. And over treatment, they combine them. And as they combine them and as everything starts swinging together, think of the magnetic pulse energy. Let's say those billions of swings, let's say some are swinging faster or some are swinging too slow. Think of the pulse energy being exactly your intrinsic frequency, and then just tapping the swings to get them all swinging together. And
Crazy.
The outcome is immediately your sleep improves. So they put sleep trackers on you. They've validated it. All the data is in the 90th percentile of success. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm super pumped that you even brought it up, because it's hard to get the word out there. Even though it's been validated, by all these clinical trials, even though the states are funding it, it still comes across as sort of black magic, voodoo, snake oil.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, man, I personally, when I got my first treatment, I was waking up at 3:30 in the morning religiously, plus or minus 30 minutes. Didn't matter what time zone I was in. I was always waking up then. And I couldn't get back down. The wheels start turning and all that. And then for me, it was like the third treatment. I went from what was only like 4, max 5 hours to like 8.
Crazy.
And it sticks, because for me, that was before COVID. So that was 5 years ago. And I'm going through it again right now, just getting a little touch up. But my alpha waves were completely separated, and now they're together, but just a little bump. So I'm just getting a little touch up. But yeah, I love it, man. And I have some very close friends that, and family members, that have been through this, that are walking around today in a good place because of this thing. So wow. I will sing it from the hilltops anytime I get a chance. So
I've used a ton of Bluetooth speakers over the years, and they all have never quite had enough output for me to really have an awesome home gym workout on a Bluetooth speaker. But the Turtle Box is in a whole new ball game. They have leveled up this product, so the bass and the output you get out of a Turtle Box is quite amazing. It's funny how we started using them at the lab. We had an awesome sound system at our new lab here in Bozeman. We were using it so much, we actually blew our brand new system out. We went right to the Turtle Boxes. And so we paired 2 together in the lab. And that was a lot of output for the Mountain Tough team and all of our testing to have phenomenal sound in our gym for a great workout with great music. We know there's a ton of Mountain Toughers training in their basements, in their garages. And I know a lot of you are looking for great sound to play some music in the background to your MGDs. This is a great product for you to check out. Turtle Box is at a whole new level. The bass and the volume you can get out of that box It's a sweet product. You guys can check them out at turtleboxaudio.com. Use promo code TOUGH for a free Turtlebox hat with the purchase of a Gen 2 speaker. The hat must be added to your cart before entering the promo code TOUGH, TOUGH. That's really interesting because I've seen some of that stuff, and we've had some team guys in Bozeman work on a little bit of that stuff here, and then I've ran into some folks in Kansas City doing something similar, and then I've noticed the same thing from the individuals I've talked to that have dove into that there is a lot of kind of neuro pathway restoration that can happen when they're looking at your brain and looking at how that they can even that out, and then the benefits of increased sleep are really trickling down into all these other benefits. And so we all know that active duty guys, that active first responders, their sleep is all jacked up. The operations, the op tempo, the night shifts, the energy drinks, and that lack of sleep is causing a lot of good individuals to die young just from some bizarre health effects that are coming from the lack of sleep. But also this same thing is connected to the depression, the anxiety, the suicidal thoughts is also contributed sometimes to the sleep. So there's a lot going on there that is really important to understand, because if, a lot of folks talk about if you want the quickest hack to change your life, the quickest hack out there is get an extra hour of sleep per night, because everything starts improving once you get that sleep score up. And so that's a big one.
Well, and add to that, when we were building the SOCOM study, it was about PTSD and TBI, but nobody wants to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm dealing with post-traumatic stress, or my melon's been rung too many times. Nobody wants to do that or say that for fear of kind of being marked or being, kind of subtly moved out of that team into another team or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you walk into a team room and you say, hey, man, did anybody get more than 5 hours of sleep last night? And like one hand goes up, you know you're onto something. And it's like, hey, we all know that sleep improves performance, and you want to get these guys' attention, you talk about performance.
Yeah.
And when you put a Whoop band on them, or you put one of these HRV measurement tools or whatever, and you show them what happens with their performance, speed, accuracy, everything before and after, like let's say after a bad night of sleep, or after just having 2 beers before going to sleep, and then show them what happens, compare that to a night of just solid recovery sleep. You can't argue with it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, performance improves when you have better sleep. And I agree with you, man. It's like, if we could go back and redo that study, we would have made it all about just recovery sleep. There's just a way to potentially improve your sleep, and then we would have had twice as many people in the study.
Mm-hmm.
And what the states that are funding this are doing is they're only talking about sleep. They're just like, hey, this is a way to improve your sleep. If you're dealing with stress and burnout, circadian rhythm issues, whatever, this is just a way to improve your sleep. And I think due to, thanks to guys like you talking about the value of sleep and how it affects performance, I think it's having an impact, because all these places, they're overflowing. Like, it's a waiting list to get into these places. It's really cool to see, actually.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've become kind of a sleep score junkie in the last couple of years, and it's been funny. Now my wife is a sleep score junkie, and it's contributed to so many positive things in our life. I found I love to get a workout in real early, so we'll get a 6 or 5:30 a.m. lift in. and I used to stay up reading till 10:30, 11. So that would give me 6.5 or 7 hours. A lot of 6.5. So then I'd get like the 72, 74 sleep score, and reading about this and learning more about this and really kind of diving into it, I started making some changes, and I would make changes to make sure I got 8 hours. And so we'd readjust our schedule on how we got our girls down, and that way I could start crashing about 9:30. That would get me 7.5, 8 hours. I'd see my sleep score go from 74 to 80, 85, 86. I was always chasing the 90.
Just like that.
I was chasing
Yeah.
the 90, 91, and it's hard for me to get a 91 plus. But the other thing, in that whole process, you start noticing how much better you feel. You start noticing your emotions are way level. You're not as irritable. Your cognitive function's really high. You're able to get a lot of tasks and work done because your brain is just rolling. And it was really closely connected to alcohol for us. And so for our family, for me and my wife, we weren't ever getting drunk or anything, but like I loved having a beer after work. I just loved having 1 or 2 beers after work. And it was kind of just this dumb habit thing. I just loved getting home and cracking a beer. And you're so right. You could see one beer on your sleep score so quickly. I mean, you'd have one beer, you'd get a solid 8 hours, and you'd get like a 67 sleep score. You had 2 beers, you're like at a 64. And so it caused us to completely quit all alcohol. And so now, we'll have like some non-alcoholic beers every now and then, maybe a drink on like an anniversary or something like that. But the benefits of chasing that sleep, the way it trickles down into all these other areas of your life, it creates this positive snowball because you're sleeping better, you're feeling better, you're recovering better, your workouts are better, you're getting more benefit from your workout, your brain's operating better, you're better with your kids. Like the way it all connects is powerful.
Yeah, it's game changer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's helping that we're getting a lot of these sleep experts that are getting into the spotlight out there, and really advocating for this and showing guys, and when you're talking about firefighters, police officers, performance, especially police officers. I mean, those guys, the way I look at a law enforcement officer is every time they walk out their front door in the morning and say goodbye to their wife and kids, that is a combat deployment.
Mm-hmm.
Because, a lot of our combat deployments, a lot of the time nothing happens, but you don't know. And the other thing is the triggers, like downrange, we're exposed to a lot of triggers, right? And you come home and you recover, and you go through, talk therapy or just calm down and decompress or whatever. And the triggers are still way, way over there.
Yeah.
If you're a law enforcement officer or a fighter or EMT for that matter, and you walk by the 7-Eleven that's right around the corner from where you live, where the shooting was, where the 6-year-old kid died in your arms, that's a massive trigger. And you never, ever get away from it because it's right there. And it takes months to come down from some of this stuff. And they never, ever get the chance because they're deploying over and over again. And what we know from the SOCOM world, because we did all these studies on this stuff out, like 6 years after 9/11, man, everything started imploding around the community.
Yeah.
Divorces, alcoholism, guys getting arrested, spouse abuse, just the DUIs going through the roof, the wheels just coming off the proverbial bus. What we were dealing with was, deploy for a while, but be home for a while and decompress over a long period of time. And we still were having those issues.
Yeah.
Well, look at the look at a law enforcement officer, man.
Yeah.
That's their life,
Every day.
and it's every day. So when I heard that they were doing this stuff for the first responders, I just was like, hey, man, whatever you guys need, I will help in any way I can. Because, and especially in the recent past with all the defund the police and BLM and all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, those guys, they're our community heroes in a lot of cities. They are persona non grata, man. So every time I see a guy or I get pulled over or whatever, so the first thing I tell them, man, is like, hey, man, thanks for what you. Oh, here's a funny story. If you ever get pulled over, there's this thing called felony stop. So if you run from law enforcement or you rob a bank or whatever, and they finally get you to stop, that's considered a felony stop. And there's certain things they'll make you do. So if you ever get pulled over, this is kind of fun. I'm going to probably get in trouble for sharing this. But if you ever get pulled over, it happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I was chit-chatting with guys in the car, totally not paying attention, 70, 65, 55, 45, and all of a sudden you're in the city, it's 35.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still going 70.
Yeah.
And so he pulls me over and treat it as a felony stop, meaning roll all four windows down, turn the car off, take the keys, put them on the roof, put both hands 12 o'clock on the steering wheel. That's what they're going to make you do at a felony stop. The guy walks up, he sees me, he's like laughing. He hasn't even met me yet. He's just laughing. He's like, oh my God, this is not a felony stop. You were just speeding, blah, blah, blah. And it just breaks the ice. Yeah, it's great. So there's a little trick.
Yeah, roll the windows down.
It helps having a couple of key bumper stickers too.
Yeah, you need the perfect bumper stickers. Yeah, I bet he was a little shocked when he saw you do that.
Yeah, felony stop.
Well,
I had an attorney tell me about that one.
Take me back to losing your friend to suicide, Joe Price, and take me back to the job you took after that. We've talked about sleep, but when you went into that role of taking care of other service members, what from a high level, what was working to actually make a transformation, to actually help some people?
Okay. Job. So December 22nd, 2012, I'm in my second commanding officer role over in Germany. We have a unit in Germany, or we had a unit there. And Joe was the commanding officer of SEAL Team 4. He had guys working for me up in Germany. He had a task unit working for me. And I had guys working for him down in Afghanistan. And every week we would do a face phone thing, kind of like this, a VTC, video teleconference, a secure line. And he would just, we'd shoot the breeze. We both went to the Air Force Academy together, and we both were at SEAL Team 2 together, and now we're both commanding officers. We've known each other for a long time. And so he'd call and we'd shoot the shit, and how my guys doing, how the guys in Germany doing down there, and we talk about who we were going to swap out, because there'd be guys in Germany that didn't have any combat experience, and we would fly them down with some gear and leave them down there for a month, and he'd fly guys up and swap them out. So we've just had these kinds of conversations every week. And early in the deployment, they had an operation go bad, and they lost a teammate, and he struggled with that a lot. But I mean, we talked through a lot of it. I know he was talking with his wife, Stephanie, a lot. A lot of friends were reaching out, and so I think he was getting past that, all right. And then I want to say it was about 2 months, maybe a month and a half later, they had another tragedy and lost 2 guys from his squadron. And I remember the next call I had with him was very strained. He didn't want to be on the phone. He wasn't himself. He told me he had stopped working out, um, and he wasn't sleeping very well at all. In his words, I can't sleep.
Hmm.
And then the next week we missed, and then the next week we talked, and he just looked bad. And that was the last time I talked with him. And so on that Saturday in 2012, I'm taking Sean to a birthday party. It's a Saturday morning. It's kind of early in Germany. It's like 9 in the morning. I'm dropping him off, and my little BlackBerry goes off, and it's a phone number from Virginia Beach. So I know, it's the middle of the night back there on a weekend.
Yeah.
Not good. So I pick it up, and it's a friend of mine, and I could just tell tone in his voice. I was like, "Oh shit, okay, who was it?" And he said it was Job. And I'm like, "Oh God, man." Job, 14th deployment, commanding officer of a SEAL team, leading troops in combat. What a lot of us would think of kind of the pinnacle of your career in special operations. But it's what my buddy told me next that just took the wind right out of my sails. He said, "Hey, John, what you need to know and understand is that it appears that Joe died by his own hand, inflicted a gunshot wound to the head."
Man.
And I was like, whoa, I had all these thoughts going through my head. I was like, God, man, Job is like that guy. His hand's always the first to go up for, deployments, short deployments, long deployments. When he was at JSOC, he was just going. And, resilient. I thought one of the most tough, resilient officers that I knew. And I remember this thought kept coming in my head. It was like, if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And as we, as a community, started unpacking this more and more, not that Job's suicide was any more, I don't know, important than any of the others that we'd had. But there was a lot of that going on. 2012, when you take all the active duty component of Special Operations Command and look at completed suicides from the active duty force, I'm not talking about dependents, I'm not talking about spouses, kids, I'm not talking about veterans, I'm talking about active duty Special Operations Command. It had the highest suicide rate of any federal entity in the U.S. government in 2012. And Job is one of those statistics.
That's wild.
And so it really started unpacking it as a community, as a naval special warfare community, as a special operations community. It was like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And that was also near the beginning of this preservation of the force and family. So to answer your question about what we saw that really had an impact, there were a lot of things. But I'll tell you what I think the most valuable was. First of all, the POTF program, Preservation of the Force and Family. There were 4 components back then. There was a spiritual component. There was a family social component, like family readiness coordinators and that kind of stuff. There was a human performance program, strength trainers, physical therapists, DPTs, sports psychs, that kind of stuff. And there was a behavioral health or mental health component. All of those things helped to some degree. But I feel the 2 that had the biggest impact were the behavioral health piece and the human performance program.
Wow.
And I'll come back to the HP side, but what we did with the human performance program is we went to Congress and advocated with all the staffers up there that we laid the suicide numbers, just we laid all the data out in front of them. It's like, look, nothing against what the service provided capability or capacity is, nothing against that. It's great and we need it, but we need more. And they said, well, what do you need? And we said, we would like some resources to purchase behavioral health professionals and contract, that's a better term, contract behavioral health professionals, providers, and embed them in the tactical units around the world. And there was a lot of pushback up in DC over that, but eventually, we got what we wanted. I think Admiral McRaven and General Votel did a great job advocating for that. And then the commanders that followed them kept that same mantra going. And we started seeing changes taking place. So to answer your question, I think embedding helping resources in the form of civilian contracted behavioral health providers, that was probably the biggest impact we saw. And why that is, there's probably a lot of reasons why. My opinion is when we would go and visit with these commands and kind of ask why is it helping? And they said, well, Miss Tina, whoever that is now part of the command, she's in the hallways. She's using the gym with all the guys.
Yeah.
She's using the chow hall with everyone. And she's now a trusted member of the command.
Yeah.
And when you have trusted members of the command, they talk. And that folds back into the HP side too, because what we started seeing is, these athletic trainers, these strength conditioning coaches, these PTs, they were seeing these guys every single day.
Mm-hmm.
When they weren't off on a training trip, they were seeing them all the time. And as soon as they felt something with one of the guys was a little bit off, they'd engage because they knew him. There was a trusted relationship, and everyone loves the HP staff because, especially the PTs, because as soon as you tweak something, the PT's right there, and you can get it fixed quick.
Yeah.
Versus the old style of it's still tweaked the next day it's still tweaked. Eventually, you go to the clinic across the base and they do an MRI, and boom, you're getting surgery. But it probably could have been avoided if you addressed it 3 or 4 weeks earlier. So the HP staff, as soon as they see something, they could do one of two things. They could engage with the person directly, or they could go to that trusted provider that also works at the command, and there's a relationship there, and say, hey, you go check on my command. Something's off. I didn't feel comfortable going there because I knew he just lost his mom, but whatever.
So they had someone to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah. And then take it one level further, and you would see these health providers, these behavioral health providers, walk into, let's say, the command sergeant major's office and shut the door and be in there for like 45 minutes or something. Or the commanding officer go in their office and shut the door and be in there for a little while. And that stuff spreads like wildfire. I mean, everybody talks. The whole command's a damn fishbowl anyway. And as soon as people start realizing, wait a minute, the senior enlisted advisor, the commander, the XO, everybody is talking with maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
And that, I think SOCOM, and it's a constant battle, right? But I think they've done a pretty good job of saying, hey, when you're involved in kinetic lifestyle, training, combat operations, whatever, there's going to be orthopedic injuries. Of course, that comes with it. There's also going to be, neck up, checkup type stuff. There's going to be injuries upstairs. We got to address both. If we don't address both, it's kind of like the 3-legged stool, mind, body, spirit. If one of the legs breaks, the stool's going to fall over.
Yeah.
And So it was a fascinating job to be in.
That is
And I think
fascinating.
that probably more than anything else is why they asked me up to Tallahassee to interview for this job. And I'm brand new, man. But
Hmm.
to take that mindset and go into the private sector with it, you know, um, Coca-Cola, Florida, right? If if you can improve behavioral health or mental health inside a big corporation, you're going to affect all the mid-sized and small businesses that are aligned with that entity.
For sure.
And if you improve those types of things for employees, you're going to improve it for the family. It's just going to be a natural fallout. That's something we saw
Hmm.
is the family piece, how important that was. And it's kind of like floating tide rises all boats. If you can have private sector organizations and companies around the state improving behavioral health, kind of the community in general, things get better across the state. 40% of the kids in this state in Florida have unmet mental health needs, and it's almost a quarter of adults. I
Hmm.
mean, that's a real issue, man.
It's big. Hey guys, I did want to interrupt for a quick minute right here and let you know about some supplements I've been taking. I did shy away from supplements for a long time. I was always cautious about what they were made out of, where they were from, and who the team was behind the brands. But over the last couple of years, I've got to meet the team at Mountain Ops from top to bottom, and they are an amazing group of humans. I've got to know the CEO, Trevor Farnes, really well, and he is a mission-focused individual that cares about humans living a better quality of life so that they can have that abundant life. So over the last couple of years, he has helped me add some things that have changed the game for me. One of those things that I've added is creatine from Mountain Ops. It helps me maintain some muscle mass, but also it's a big, big player in cognitive function, one of the most researched supplements out there. Also, I've added reds, greens, and protein, all from Mountain Ops. What I found as a busy professional, always on the run, I do eat a whole foods diet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but on the go, it's hard to get enough vegetables, fruits, and protein. So I've added that from Mountain Ops, and it has significantly changed the game. I can feel it in my performance. I haven't got sick for a long, long time, and I can certainly feel it in my mental clarity as well. The last thing I've added is the Mountain Tough Hydrate product for the backcountry, for hunting season. When I'm in the hills, I do run short on those electrolytes. We even have a Mountain Tough flavor, the Mountain Tough Lemon Lime Hydrate, and that is a game changer for hydration in the backcountry. So I keep it really simple. That is all I've added to my protocol, and it has certainly helped me, and I certainly believe in the team and the culture behind Mountain Ops. They have started an initiative that's been around for a while called Conquer Hunger. Conquer Hunger is giving meals to hungry kids that aren't getting enough food, and they've given out over 6 million meals plus to kids through their Conquer Hunger initiative. So every order that happens at Mountain Ops, a percentage of that order goes to Conquer Hunger. So certainly an incredible company, an incredible culture. As a listener to the show, you do get an exclusive offer to Mountain Ops, so make sure you check that out. The offer is incredible as a first-time purchase at mountainops.com. So build your order if it's your first time. They are offering you a 20% exclusive discount. All you need to do is enter the promo code Mountain Tough, all one word, all caps, for 20% off your first order at mountainops.com. The suicide epidemic is everywhere now. I mean, we're seeing it at record levels nationally. We're seeing it at record levels with youth, middle school age, high school age,
Yeah.
college age. It is a major thing. And it sounds like through the work you did towards the end of your career at SOCOM, we obviously know that sleep is a factor, but it sounds like a second huge thing that you unpacked was having close, trusted relationships around us and people to talk to is a game changer. And that's going to come into an impact whether you're a first responder or a civilian, or whether you're a veteran or civilian, or military or a civilian. That same principle is going to apply. And, we talk a lot about it on the Mountain Tough show. From the civilian perspective, you have to have a band of brothers around you. You have to have that 3 a.m. friend that you have to have someone that you can actually be vulnerable with and tell them what's going on. And then we have to also be watching out, just like the behavioral folks were doing, kind of watching out for red flags. And then if we see them, we have to start kind of digging into them. Do you think that was one of the biggest factors, was just that trust and just someone you can share what's going on with?
Yeah, I think the term they use in behavioral health circles is social connectedness. If you don't have that, it amplifies all the bad for sure. And I mean, we've all been there. It's kind of the well, if you're a guy watching this show or listening to this show, I mean, how many of us have sometimes felt like, well, God, I got these guys I work with, and I got these old friends from college or high school or the military, but who do I have around me that's close, that's accessible, that's a close friend? I mean, a lot of guys can't even name one or two people, and I feel like it's a kind of a cultural thing, and I love what you guys are doing. God, I forgot his name already. What was the guy's name in Colorado?
Jim Bergen.
Oh my God, I got to write it down. I got to reach out to that guy. What he was talking about on your show, building the tribe, what you guys were talking, the herd, the tribe, all that kind of stuff. And having it be accessible. Remember, he was talking about, something happened. He got sideswiped and he's standing on the side of the road. He's like, well, I'll just call one of my buddies. And he's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
None of my buddies are right here. And he ended up having a colleague or
someone
an employee come and help him out. And that struck a chord with me because I think a lot of guys are like that. Very general, broad statement. Ladies, women are not like that, right? I mean, they're social animals, and they always have each other. I mean, we moved every 2 to 3 years for my whole career, and I was always amazed how Katie could do it. We had the three kids, and then Katie, God bless her, man. I don't know how she did it, how she dealt with all my BS, but she would build that social network as soon as her feet were on the ground, immediately. It was like the most important thing to her. And I would go to work, and I build that at work, of course, but in base housing was good because a lot of your work colleagues became friends. But at these bases where you're not living on base housing, which is the majority of them, guys in Virginia Beach, they'll drive a half hour, 45 minutes across the county to get home. San Diego's even worse. They'll drive over an hour to get home. And then you ask those guys, they're at work at 6 a.m. They get home 6 or 7. They have a family. And you ask them, who are your buddies in the neighborhood? Goose egg. Because nobody values that piece. And when all your social network is at work, and I mean, I'm more guilty than anyone, but when that's all you have, that's an issue, because when things start going south, like the Marsoc guy you had on for the second time, and he tells the story about I think his wife said she was pregnant. It was like everything was imploding for him, and that was just one more thing. And he goes in the garage, puts a gun in his mouth, pulls the trigger, and he has a light strike.
A light strike.
And
Unreal.
he's walking around today because of that. But you guys talked about it on that show as well. Having those swim buddies, those teammates, those wingman, whatever you want to call it, having those guys around that when you're feeling down that you can lean on is so important, man. And maybe more importantly, when you sense one of your buddies struggling, to be there for them. I think when I go around and talk to like the colleges and universities and stuff, I always tell Job's story, and it sucks. It's hard to tell, and I try to keep it upbeat and keep a good attitude, throughout the whole thing. But I always fit his story in because I feel like that one of the most important things to share with people is nobody's immune. Nobody's immune, man, and everybody has a breaking point. No matter how tough you think you are, how resilient you think you are, everyone's got a breaking point. I mean, Job, man, SEAL commanding officer, 14 deployment. I mean, come on. And sharing that with young adults that are just getting ready to, start their professional life, and share with them. It's like, hey, it's really important that you guys are there for each other. And when you sense something's not right, like I did with Job, that you get a little invasive, invasive leadership is okay.
You have to.
I'll even tell him, I was like, hey man, I wish I could go back to that last call I had with Job and ask him very directly, are you thinking of hurting yourself? How bad is it, brother? But I didn't go there, it's just a very cultural no-go zone. But that was 13 years ago. I'm a totally different person now. But I shared that, it's kind of an emotional unloading for me, and it's uncomfortable. But every time I give one of those talks, I get somebody coming up and talking to thank me about that story. Or I'll always talk about faith too. We can go there if you want.
Let's go there. Let's get into your faith journey.
Okay. I heard you and Jim obviously talking about that. God, my faith journey. That's an interesting way of saying it. Well, here I'll say it like this. I was raised Catholic by my dad. My mom was not Catholic at all, but that was something they worked out when they got married. And so my sister and I. She's out in both my parents, Northern California, my sister's family in Santa Rosa. And, we would go to church on Sundays, and my mom would tag along for Easter and Christmas.
Then
I went to college, if you want to call the Air Force Academy a college. I went to the academy. And the only reason my freshman year, that kind of like boot camp phase, the only reason I went to church was because that was where they couldn't yell at you. They couldn't get to you. So I'd go in the back pew, and I just
get a break.
I'd go to sleep. and then I get out of the Air Force Academy, and then of course freshman year ends, and I kind of stopped going. And then I would go when I went home for Christmas or whatever. And then I go in the Navy. And I definitely wasn't going in the Navy, and and then I get in the teams, and you want to talk about something that's not talked about in the teams, at least when I came in, it's faith or religion. As a matter of fact, the feeling as a new guy is you just don't go there. And if you do, you're a marked man type thing. That's not true. But that's how I felt, right? And now jump forward. It's my first combat deployment. And I'd only been on the ground like 36 hours, circadian rhythm, sleep cycles all jacked up. And it's Sunday morning. I'm trying to sleep. I can't get to sleep. And I just had this thought, it's first, I've been on a couple deployments, SEAL deployments, but this is my first combat deployment. And it was in Fallujah. And I just had this feeling like, oh man, I should go find a chapel or something.
Yeah.
And so I went and had an early breakfast, and I saw a guy with a little cross on his uniform. I was like, hey, is there a chapel or something around here? And he goes, oh yeah, which one are you looking for? I told him Catholic, and he goes, "Oh, I'm a Catholic priest. We're starting in a half hour. Just follow me."
Mountain Tough is the fitness app trusted by the dedicated. Mountain Tough ethos is backed by we've always wanted to be the best in the world at helping our customers become more mentally tough. So inside the Mountain Tough app, you're not only going to find all of our physical training programs, but you're going to find additional training as well so that you can stay sharp physically, mentally, spiritually, and nutritionally. The Mountain Tough app also allows you to train no matter where you are, anytime, anywhere. Additionally, the Mountain Tough app is going to have programs from beginners all the way up to elite athletes. And all of our programming is structured in a way that you can start with no gear at body weight, and you can go all the way up to programming that is full gear. So you can do that in a robust home gym or your local gym. There's no excuse for you not to start today. With Mountain Tough, you can conquer your goals with the ideal program for your lifestyle and schedule. Train with equipment or just your body weight on your phone, tablet, TV, or web browser. Most importantly, Mountain Tough will help you train your mindset so you are always ready for anything life throws your way. Mountain Tough is offering the Mountain Tough Podcast listeners an incredible offer. 6 weeks free on the Mountain Tough app. All you need to do is use the code MTNPOD to redeem your 6 weeks of training. That'll be a 14-day free trial plus a whole additional 4 weeks of training. Just go to mountaintough.com and enter code MTNPOD for your 6 weeks free on the best-in-class physical and mental training app.
I was like, okay, I'll go get a coffee. I'll meet you there. And he shows me where it is. I get my green bean coffee. And anyway, so I walk in, and as soon as I open that plywood shack door, and there's the little cheap ass folding chairs, and it's a big plywood room, not huge, probably 3 times the size of this room.
Yeah.
And I open the door, and I see a guy I know sitting straight across. And I kind of give him one of these, and then I turn, and I'm looking for a place to sit, and I see another guy I know, both from the same task unit.
Okay.
And I'm like, whoa. And I find a seat, and I sit down, and I start looking around the room. There's like 50 people in there. So I guess it's definitely bigger than 3 of these, but there's about 50 people in there. I look around, and I count 5 guys, all NSW, all from the same task unit, all guys that I thought I really knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go through these training cycles with guys, you're with people all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear anything in that mass. I just the wheels were turning. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Including me, there's 6 Catholic guys in this task unit. You got to be kidding me. I had no idea. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Why? And then so church ends, we get out, we're all laughing about it. It's like, LT, I didn't know you were Catholic. I didn't know you were Catholic. Oh shit. Why is that? Why don't we ever talk about it?
Yeah.
And it kind of hit me on that deployment. I started treating my faith totally different from that point forward. Now, every chance I get to talk about it, I talk about it. And I think the more I dug into it, the more we started talking on that deployment, the more people that I met that were of different faiths, a lot of Protestant guys, the more we collectively started to realize the reason people don't talk about it is kind of like it's a cultural like thing you just don't do.
Yeah.
But the reality is people want to talk about it. And I'm not talking about being like a Bible thumper and wearing it on your sleeve and stuff, but kind of communicating that, yeah, I'm Catholic. It's not a big deal. By doing that, if you're a leader, and I would be one to say everybody in your organization's a leader.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you're saying it's okay to other people for
talk
them
about
to
it.
be the same way about their faith. And it just allows everyone to kind of open up. And I would say that started my faith journey.
That's awesome.
And so now it's been about 20 years since that point. And yeah, I'm in a totally different space with it
Just
now.
deeper and deeper,
I love it.
closer.
We're part of a great parish here, St. Paul's Catholic school and church here in St. Petersburg. It's a phenomenal group of families. And you want to go back to the herd in the tribe and the like-minded people that are like guys that are looking for that cohesive piece. That's been a natural fallout for me. So now I would say 90% of my buddies in this area, they're from St. Paul's Church and St. Rafe's Church down the street, another Catholic one down the street. And that's how we got retired team guys in the area, and I'm buddies with them as well. But it's different when there's a faith component. I don't know what it is, but it's, and we're talking a couple days after Easter, man, there is a powerful spiritual component to those relationships that doesn't exist anywhere else. So it's a constant journey. I'm trying.
Yeah, I love it. I love that because I think once you open that door like you did in the military and you see those other guys that share some of that common interest, especially on a combat deployment, especially with the evil that you guys were hunting all over the world, it's hard to reconcile that kind of evil versus good that you've seen and witnessed without a faith component. Without a faith component, a lot of that just doesn't make sense. And if you don't have the chance to talk about that stuff and unpack that a little bit with some close friends, it makes it really difficult. And it's the same in everyday life. If you have the faith, but you don't have people to discuss it with everything we're seeing going on in the world, it's that iron sharpens iron for sure.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah. It's tough, your kids are younger than mine and you want to help them along the way, that journey. But what I found raising kids that are all in college now, you can only push so much before they will not pull and they'll put their defenses up. So, we did everything we could to expose them to the faith and, give them all the tools that they need. And, God's got a plan for each of them.
Yeah.
And they're all approaching it differently for sure.
Yeah. It's got to be their own decision.
I agree.
For sure. Well, John, we are out of time. I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your wisdom and love what you're doing. Love what you're doing there in Florida. Anything we can do to improve the quality of life of America's first responders is a noble task. They are, our heroes, and we need to do everything we can to keep those individuals healthy. And I love that that's where you're called to right now. And we know that sleep is a big factor, plus a lot of other factors. And it's cool to see how your career has led you to that point.
Yeah, thanks. I'm looking forward to the next chapter. I'm not sure what it has in store yet, but I'm sure it'll be exciting. And Yeah, I really appreciate you pulling me on your show. I enjoy it, and yeah, I want to start the workout program.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was, over the last couple weeks, just kind of listening in different shows, and the more I heard guys talking about what you all have built, it's like, oh, geez, that's something I can do right here in the carport with a couple guys. Just come on over and let's knock it out, and you don't
Yeah.
have to think about it.
Yeah.
You just plug and play, hit play, and tell you what to do.
Yeah.
That's my kind of workout, man.
Yeah. And then you'll have a few brothers alongside of you. You can't beat that for sure.
That's an important piece.
Yeah.
That's an important, and sometimes that's the hardest piece. But once it gets moving, it's hard to stop that train.
Yeah. Well, thanks, John. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
What a great conversation with John. I definitely could have chatted with him for a few more hours. We'll definitely try to get some more content from him. As you heard on the show, he's doing a lot right now for our country's heroes. And the golden nugget for me on this one, we talked about it a lot there at the beginning for sure, was his hack around sleep. All those studies he was doing, all the studies he's continuing to do around the lack of sleep in our first responder, veteran, and active duty military community, and how scientifically he's able to tie that directly to all the problems that we're facing. The golden nugget for sure on this episode is the hack that we mentioned, that if you can just add a couple hours of sleep per night to your routine, your life will change. So those guys that are getting 5 hours can go to 6. Those guys that are getting 6 can go to 7. We want to see you guys in that 7 to 8 hour range. He talked a lot about what that's going to do for your life, and it is that positive snowball it is going to create. So if you're struggling with sleep, think about that. If you're not getting enough sleep, see what you can do to create that extra hour and see the positive benefits out of that right away. Love you guys. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode.